dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6:31 on your Tuesday. I'm Will Puckett. It is a soggy start to your morning. If you're in the far reaches of eastern Kentucky and even Virginia and West Virginia, you still might be seeing a little bit of more snow than we've seen over here towards the western reaches of eastern Kentucky, because it was just too warm yesterday and it didn't catch up to that cold air fast enough, or it was actually too fast for that cold air. Let's bring Brandon in on the fold to explain it a little bit better. Why, Brandon, some people this morning are facing up or waking up to just a little bit of snow, if any, and mostly just damp conditions.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. That front came through in the overnight hours, still actually moving through this morning, but it was supposed to be, and all the models showed this, some moisture behind the front, not only just along the front, but behind the front. Well, the models came in yesterday morning and was like, no moisture behind the front, just what's going along. That's what we saw, and the temperatures didn't drop fast enough to transition us over to snow in most locations. So a little bit of folks saw some snow. It's caused some school closings and delays this morning. Let's take a look at some of the cameras here at 6:33, and you can see up on top of US 119 there, Whitesburg Pine Mountain. You can see the snow coming in on the last loops there, and you can see the last frames of the loop and on the sides of the road. But again, anywhere that got rain overnight, the possibility for icy roads is there because temperatures are still dropping. You can see the moisture there kind of fading away quickly. Live pinpoint Doppler radar not scanning much of anything when it comes to snow in our area. We look at the temperatures continuing to fall. When you factor in those wind chills, still pretty rough there. 19 Nashville and 13 Moorhead, 9 Richmond, 11 in Somerset and Monticello is what it feels like. The winds will continue to crank for a couple of days because we have another cold front that's back up there where you see that purple. It's going to drift through our area later tonight with the Clipper system. It's a weak one, but it's going to drive our temperatures down even more. So today, 25 is where we'll stabilize at. Later this afternoon, a few flurries will be around throughout the day. A cold night ahead with, again, a few flurries possible. As we get down to 14, you factor in those wind chills, it'll feel close to 0 overnight. So be careful, be aware, and we'll get you caught up on the rest of the forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Will?
All righty, Brandon, we'll be back with you. Parents, when you send your kids to school, you surely want to know they are safe. Yesterday, however, we learned a former Harlan County High School employee might have preyed on a teenage girl. Back in March, social services got a report that Daniel Tuttle, you see him here on your screen, allegedly sexually assaulted a teenage girl. An arrest warrant was issued on January 8th for Tuttle, and he was put behind bars yesterday after turning himself in. WYMT's Macy Marie has more.
Monday morning, a former JROTC instructor surrendered after allegations surfaced that he sexually assaulted a student.
We typically have 70 to 90 students in JROTC.
One of the men tasked with watching those teens, Daniel Tuttle, now faces a charge of first-degree sexual assault.
Unfortunately, these allegations sometimes come up, and that's something we have to address immediately when they do.
Harlan County School Superintendent Brent Roark says he first learned of the allegations in March of 2018, and he placed Tuttle on administrative leave. In June, his employment ended.
We want to promote a safe environment for all of our students.
Tuttle was hired in February of 2016. School officials say he also spent time in law enforcement.
Whenever something like this does happen, or would happen, we would want to encourage our students to report any interactions that have made them feel uncomfortable.
School officials say their main goal is to create a safe learning environment and let students know they always have someone to reach out to. In Harlan County, Macy Marie, WYMT Mountain News.
Kentucky State Police say Tuttle surrendered at the Harlan County Detention Center. Well, Monday evening, deputies in Laurel County held a meeting to teach people how to create their own neighborhood watch programs. Officials with the sheriff's office say over half the crimes they solve come from tips from people in the community. One woman at the meeting says her home has been broken into multiple times. She says learning how to describe suspicious people or cars to police when things don't seem right will probably help her feel safe in her home. She says having her home broken into has caused her a great deal of anxiety.
We felt very violated, because somebody came in our house that we didn't invite them in and just came in and looked around and did whatever they wanted to do.
Deputies at the event also recommended talking with neighbors and choosing random times to drive up and down the roads, looking for people or vehicles that seem out of place. Well, Senator Rand Paul was in court yesterday in the civil trial against his neighbor who attacked him 2 years ago. Jury selection began yesterday. Senator Paul is seeking more than $1 million in damage from Rene Boucher. He pleaded guilty to assaulting the senator, saying he, quote, lost his temper. Boucher received a 30-day sentence. Federal prosecutors have appealed that sentence. Well, another name is officially on the crowded ballot for Kentucky governor. Former state auditor Adam Edlin. Edlin announced his candidacy earlier this month. Yesterday, however, he filed with the Secretary of State, making his campaign official. The Democrat has picked Louisville businessman Gil Harlan as his running mate. Edlin joins Attorney General Andy Beshear, State House Leader Rodkey Atkins, and Jeff Young on the Democratic ticket. The filing deadline is today. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees reported back to work yesterday as the government shutdown came to an end. Last week, President Trump signed a bill to fund the government until February 15th. That's a Friday. While talks continue on his border wall, a bipartisan group of 17 lawmakers from the Senate and House is set to meet Wednesday to begin discussions. The White House says President Trump could even declare a national emergency if Democrats don't budge.
If they don't come back with a deal, that means Democrats get virtually nothing. That will make the president and force him to have to take executive action that does not give Democrats the things that they want.
In a statement Monday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi urged the president to sign any legislation congressional leaders come up with in the 3 weeks to avert another shutdown. Meanwhile, President Trump on Monday accepted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's invitation to give the State of the Union address on February 5th from the House floor. The California Democrat originally invited Trump on January 3rd to give the speech today. Later in the month, amid President Trump's ongoing partial government shutdown, Pelosi requested President Trump to postpone the address or deliver it in writing. Now, former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone faces prison time, but you wouldn't know it when he arrived in Washington for his arraignment Monday. He showed nothing but confidence. Late last week, Stone was indicted on 7 counts by the special counsel of lying, obstruction, and witness tampering. It alleges he was in contact with several Trump campaign officials about WikiLeaks' release of hacked Democratic emails. Last night on Fox News' Hannity show, Stone insisted he has done nothing wrong.
There is no Russian collusion. I had no collaboration with WikiLeaks. They want to silence me because I will stand up for Donald Trump. That's what this is really about.
On Monday, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders would not offer a definitive no when asked about whether the president would pardon Stone. Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker says he thinks the Mueller investigation is close to being complete.
I've been fully briefed on the investigation, and I look forward to Director Mueller delivering the final report. And I really am not going to talk about open and ongoing investigation otherwise, but sort of the statements that I made were as a private citizen, only with publicly available information. And I am comfortable that the decisions that were made are going to be reviewed, either through the various means we have. But right now, the investigation is, I think, close to being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
And moving on from Mr. Whitaker, President Trump's nominee for Attorney General is visiting several members of the Senate ahead of a confirmation vote. William Barr met with Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri and Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Less than 2 weeks ago, Barr was at the center of Senate confirmation hearings. Barr previously served as Attorney General under George H.W. Bush. The full Senate is expected to vote on Barr's confirmation next month. Well, Cole Bear and Joe Kraft sat down one-on-one with WYMT General Manager Neil Middleton for an Issues and Answers that aired last night. The two discussed, among other things, Mr. Kraft's life in coal and how he thinks it plays a role in the global economy and here in the United States. The two discussed the importance coal plays in eastern Kentucky, plus his role in growing Kentucky's population.
I'm known, like you said earlier, I'm known as a coal guy, but I'm really an investor. And I do have a passion for Kentucky. I believe that there still can be jobs created in Kentucky and coal, but that doesn't mean that we can't invest in other things.
Now you can hear Mr. Kraft's take on how President Trump has helped the coal industry and much more. The whole Issues and Answers is on our website at WYMT.com. Well, coming up on Mountain News this morning, an impromptu hockey game was apparently the best way to pass the time when a Canadian highway shut down.
We're not seeing as much snow as expected this morning, but the cold Arctic air is already filtering in. I'll tell you how low the mercury could go in about 3 minutes.